On behalf of our entire league, it's my pleasure to present the Phil Anschutz Trophy to Arthur Blank, who will present it to your captain, Michael Parkhurst.
Hello.
Hey, Calvin.
Hey, how are you?
Doing all right, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. Can't complain. I really appreciate you hopping on for a quick 30 minutes.
No problem at all.
All right, so just a little bit about me. I kind of have this podcast where I like to interview professional athletes, and for me, I always find the mindset interesting behind all the success. Just because I think that's a really interesting part of the game, as well as kind of help inspire the next generation of athletes. So, like I said, I want to say
Sure.
thank you for being here. And obviously, we'll start right now. So, my first question for you is, after all the success that you have found throughout your career, what does success mean to you, and what words would you use to describe what it takes to be successful in football?
Good question. Yeah, I guess success for everybody is a little bit different, right? Whether it be playing at the highest level possible, or goals scored, or contracts or money. For me, I guess it's more about fulfillment. So for everybody, it's different, right? Some guys are more fulfilled just making a good paycheck no matter where they are, if they're playing or not. For me, it was always, can I challenge myself to play at the highest level possible? I think that's why I ended up going to Europe and trying things over there. I could have stayed in MLS my entire career, but I wanted to challenge myself over there and see if I could make it and how far I could go. Also led me to the national team. So for me, I guess in order to have success at anything you do, you have to be dedicated to your craft, and you have to enjoy it. Right? I think they go hand in hand. I think the more you enjoy it, the more you're dedicated. The more dedicated you are, the more success you have, the more you enjoy it. So, it kind of goes hand in hand, but, for sure, there's a very, very few athletes that can get to a very high level without being dedicated. There's obviously some super naturally gifted players that's others maybe, and those are the guys that usually bring a few others down with them, because I think that they have some bad habits that other guys think that they can get away with, and you can't, and it eventually catches up with everybody. And so yeah, I'd say dedication and loving what you do.
Absolutely, that's awesome. So my next kind of question for you is, I'm from Rhode Island as well. So growing up, what did you feel separated you from other players? Did you think it was skill, talent, work ethic, commitment? And what areas did you feel like you kind of found yourself excelling at a young age, if that makes sense?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think that's my strength has always been my ability to use my brain and to read the game and see the game. And I think that even when I was a younger child, I think that's I was doing that at a higher level than most of the other kids. And I still don't know exactly how that developed or why I was able to do that. I played baseball growing up too, and always in baseball, you're always taught like, if the ball comes to you, what are you going to do with it? So, and I always remember that in baseball. And I always remember thinking like, scanning to see who's on base, where am I going to go with the ball? And if the ball's hit here, where am I going to go with it? Versus if the ball's hit here, where am I going to go with it? And maybe that translated over to soccer, just thinking a play ahead, thinking, where's the ball going to go? Where are guys going to be running? Where should I run? Where's the open space? Those types of things. Because I was never the biggest guy. I was quick, but there's always fast guys out there. But you're a lot faster when you get a few steps head start. So that definitely helped me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so my second question for you as well is, growing up, when you started playing soccer, did you want to be a professional right away, or is that something that kind of came later on as you kind of developed as a player?
Yeah, I'd say it became something later on. When I was a youth player in Rhode Island, I mean, the revolution didn't even exist. MLS wasn't around yet. I grew up watching a local team, Rhode Island Stingrays, back in the day. They were the only professionals around, but and those guys were very accessible and great guys. But no, I never viewed it like, oh man, I want to go play this over in Europe or anything like that. I just loved playing the game. I probably viewed myself as a future Major League Baseball player more than I did a soccer player. I loved baseball so much. But as I continued to play, I thought, oh man, I'd love to play at college. So I think for me, it was step by step, taking it more seriously in high school, stopping baseball, focusing on getting to college. And then once I got to college, then focusing on, can I get drafted? Can I be a professional?
Awesome. That's awesome. So that kind of leans into kind of one of my second questions is when you kind of started figuring out you wanted to take it to the next level, what were some things that you did to kind of protect those dreams and aspirations, if that makes sense? Because sometimes things don't always work out. Sometimes there's setbacks and all that. So, and also other people around you as well. So what did you find helped you keep that kind of belief in you as along the way?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that there's two ways I want to answer this question. One was I was always a pretty good student. Always understood that I needed to be a good student, and I think the goal was always to go to college, like I said. And I was told pretty early on that in order to get to college, no matter how good you are at soccer, you need to get in academically as well and do well there. So I was always a pretty good student, and so I would encourage future athletes to make sure that they're taking care of those things as well, because I played with some guys that could have gone further in soccer, but had struggles in high school, had struggles in college with grades, and next thing you know, they're getting kicked off the team, or they're getting suspended, they lose opportunities, and things like that can derail a dream. And usually it's just a lack of effort, a lack of focus, or discipline, which leads me into the next thing of, in order to pursue, a dream as well. Some of it is about surrounding yourself with other good people, and blocking out things that don't correlate with success, and that when you're in high school, things like parties and drinking and getting into trouble, and those types of things. It's especially in soccer, guys are turning pro so young, and they're forced to grow up and no longer, when you're 17, 18 years old, can types of things like that you could probably use when I was younger. those kids are expected now to be much more professional and be in charge of their own body and their own career. So, I think I did a pretty good job when I was in high school and when I was taking it seriously to focus on that. And not that I didn't have fun. You have to have fun when you're a kid and when you're going, through different stages of life. You have to enjoy it, but always with one eye on the goal of, is this going to help me or is this going to hurt me on my way?
Definitely. There's a lot of sacrifice on the way to, be successful, and people don't always see that side. For me, one thing I felt like was always really important to me was realizing that you're like an athlete 24 hours of the day, not just on the field, not just before the match or the night before a match, but all the time. You have to be, 100%, 200%. So that's really awesome. So another thing that I find really interesting about your career as well is I've always been inspired when people have faced adversity throughout a career or a hard time, and then they continue to keep going and have such consistent success in a role and a team, and then also with trophies. So I saw in an interview you were talking about, when your time ending at Columbus was a hard point, throughout your career. And I'm interested to know, through that time, before Atlanta had come, like, what were you thinking to yourself? Because especially as, another soccer player, obviously not at that level, but when things, go wrong and you've worked, you're hard, you feel like you've been doing the right things, it can be hard to keep upbeat and, you're supposed to keep going, but it's a lot easier said than done. So what were some tools and some things that you did to kind of face that adversity and come out on top?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll back it up just even a little bit further than that. I played 1 year in Germany, and I played 1.5 games in that 1 year that I was in Germany. So it was the only time throughout my career that I wasn't getting a lot of playing time or being a regular starter. And that was a real challenge for me, right? When you're always playing for your team and helping out and achieving goals and winning trophies and things like that. And then you get to a team where like you can't play, and you feel like, God, it's just coach hates me, or like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, those types of things. That's a real challenge. And for me, I viewed that time as like okay, if I can't change the coach's mind, I'm going to prepare myself for the next challenge, whatever that's going to be. Like, I knew that my career wasn't going to end, in Germany. So I knew I needed to be ready for the next step. And I didn't know where that step was going to be, what country, when, or anything like that, but you don't know when that next opportunity is going to come, so you need to be prepared for it. So I used my time in Germany to get as fit as possible, to work on some things after training that maybe I couldn't always work on because I wasn't playing games, so I could go hard in training all the time. It didn't matter how tired I was. So you have to look for opportunities in everything, and that was my opportunity to really work on my fitness, work on some things after training that I could really get after, and just wait for my next opportunity, which turned out to be Columbus. And then leaving Columbus, I had wanted to stay in Columbus the rest of my career, and then we just didn't see eye to eye on my value. And that's frustrating, of course, when you come up to a coach that doesn't value you the way that you think that you should be valued, and what you mean to a team. That's challenging. And sometimes you need to look in the mirror and reassess and think, am I as valuable as I think I am? And sometimes you're right, and sometimes you're wrong. And it's addressing that. But I thought I was in the right, and so it was time for a new challenge. And it gave me a new sense of what's the word I'm looking here for? Something to prove. I had something to prove at an older age in my career. I was 30, maybe 31. And now I had a chip on my shoulder that maybe I didn't have before, right? I was maybe a little bit too comfortable. And now I had a chip on my shoulder to say, hey, man, you made a mistake not re-signing me to what I thought my value was. So I'm going to go down to Atlanta, and I'm going to make sure that we try and beat Columbus for sure, but everybody else as well on my way, and try and win a trophy there. And we did a couple years later. So, you know, I always viewed like everything happens for a reason, and you have to look on the bright side of things and look for the positives. And yeah, if I didn't get traded to Atlanta, maybe I would have never won an MLS Cup.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I like that a lot because especially for kind of my career as a player, if you will, I realized that sometimes setbacks can either be something that you know gets you away from the game completely, or you can use it and almost kind of use that anger, frustration as a tool to make you better. And I think that's something I've learned as well. So it's cool to see you touch a point that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think that setbacks are things that, like you said, derail careers, right? Everybody comes across setbacks, whether they're injury related or not. And, the guys that are able to bounce back from them consistently and strongly are the ones that are going to be able to have careers. It's the same thing with any team, right? Throughout a season, every team goes through a hard time where they lose a couple consecutive games, and what happens at those moments? Do guys go after each other? What does the mood in the locker room get like? Or do you stand tall, stick together, and get through it, and then win more games after that? So yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too, as I always kind of saw like throughout my career as well. So growing up, I'm actually from Rhode Island as well. I'm actually going into my first professional preseason next year with a NISA team. So I started in Rhode
Awesome.
Island, probably just like you, played Bayside and all that. And then there was a time when I was younger that the Revs Academy was looking at me. And I remember that wasn't even on my mind at the time because my family just wasn't, big into soccer. It was kind of just something for fun. But fast forward, I was training with them for like about a year and a half. And the coach finally comes and is like, oh, I think we're going to, like this is going to be the year we sign you. And as a kid, especially like in Rhode Island, like that is, like I never even expected it, but just to go through all that. And I was like, wow, this is it. Like I was so happy. And then literally the next week, same coach that told me everything was going to work out well was like, oh my God, like we signed someone else, but thank you so much. Like we'd still love to have you around. And I remember thinking as a kid, I think I was in like 6th, 7th grade, and I was like crushed, and I cried home, and I was like, I'm never gonna, play again. But I was also, and I don't really know where I got that mindset from, but that next day I was like, all right, I'm going to email every academy on the, East Coast, and whatever happens, happens. And then I ended up playing in Seacoast, and I used to like sleep in my dad's car on the way back from school. Like he'd park, go to work, I'd sleep in the car, we'd get up. And it was like, so I learned, I feel like that at a younger age. And I felt like that's what's always helped me kind of propel through the ladder. So it's just kind of cool to see, someone else, touch upon that.
That's awesome.
So yeah, my other question as well is like I said, I'm just interested to see this as someone who's kind of reaching the lower ranks of the professional level. In your opinion, or from what you've seen at the pro level, what separates like good from great, and then great from like the best? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that if I could probably pinpoint two things maybe that separate guys. Of course, there's talent, and everybody's got talent. But talent aside, it's the 24/7 athlete mindset, right? Of understanding that it's not just 2 hours on the field every day that you can get better, or that affects how you play the next day or the next game, right? It's what you eat, it's how you sleep, it's what you do off the field, it's weightlifting, it's stretching, it's recovery, it's everything. So understanding that aspect of it for sure is a huge part of what I saw. So many younger players come in that were uber talented that did not understand that. They were getting there late, they were the first ones to leave, and they just did not understand what it took. And a lot of them never signed a second contract, and it was sad. So for sure, the mindset of a 24/7 athlete is uber important. Golly, I just lost my train of thought on number two. Gosh, I can't remember what I was going to say there. I lost my train of thought. Hmm.
It's all good. We can move on, and if it comes back, comes back.
Yeah. Let me think about it as we go.
So I'm just interested to see this from your perspective. What was the hardest part about being a pro that you didn't necessarily think about? And then as well as that, what was the hardest quality to adapt from, say, the NCAA Division One to MLS? Like in that period of time, what quality did you have to work on the most to make sure that you kind of found that success?
Yeah. It's a struggle sometimes for guys to understand how to be a professional. I think that my whole career leading up, right, is so structured. You've got school, you've got your homework, you've got practice, you've got mom and dad cooking meals for you. You go to college and you've got the same thing. You've got school, you've got food available, you've got basically every hour of the day minus a few hours of alone time, it's scheduled, right? And then you become a pro, and all of a sudden, okay, you have to be at the training facility from whatever 9 to 12, whatever that time frame is. But then it's like, boom, you've got the rest of the day. I ended up taking classes at a local college to stay busy, and I lifted sometimes in the evenings, had dinners with friends, those types of things, learned how to cook a little bit. So that was a big step. And I think that some guys, it's really challenging. All of a sudden you're living on your own, or maybe with a roommate for the first time. And it's like, if you're over 21 and you can buy yourself alcohol, it's like, oh, what's preventing me from drinking on a Tuesday or a Wednesday if I want to? And the answer is nothing. It's your own personal drive. And I think that another thing that's super important is that change is owning the fact that it's your responsibility. Whatever happens in your career, it's your responsibility. You cannot rely on coaches or parents or friends or something. You have to take ownership of your path and what happens to you. And sure, you're going to have coaches that care a lot and you can depend on and rely on, but not every coach is going to be like that. And your parents are going to be there for you, hopefully, as much as possible. But it's not on them anymore to wake you up or get you there on time or remind you of this or that or anything like that. Everything that you do, once you're a professional or getting close to that, it's on your shoulders. You can't rely on other people to get it done for you. So that was a lesson I learned early on too, of hey, no one's going to force me to do anything extra. Like in college, you have a assistant coach saying, hey, you guys work with me on this, I'll help you out. Like, no, that doesn't really happen much. You have to do it, and you have to want to do it. You have to ask, and you have to be proactive. So that's something that guys don't understand all the time. They think that everyone has their best interest in mind and everybody wants them to succeed. But that's not always the case.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very valid point. So one of my last questions here to wrap it up is another thing that I think is interesting is I've seen a lot of professional players make it to the professional game and they only end up playing, maybe 1 year or a couple games. But for you, you found consistency throughout a long period of time. And I'm just interested to see, how do you feel you found that? Like, what were the steps that you felt helped you with that along the way?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's a combination of things, right? For first, I think that you, like in anything, I think you have to get a little bit lucky. You have to find, a coach and a team that you fit into well, and sometimes that's making the coach and making the team realize that you are the guy, and that's just through training hard and taking an opportunity when it comes. I think that guys underestimate the importance of being a good teammate and a good human. I saw plenty of guys that were very talented players get shipped off and not wanted around the locker room because they're, those cancer athletes that you don't want around the locker room that aren't good for team morale. And I also saw plenty of guys that weren't the best players who had long careers because every day they worked so hard. They understood their role. They were great teammates, great to have around, dependable. And took their opportunities when they had them, even though they had limited capabilities. Is eye-opening how many of those guys lasted for a long time compared to some guys that were more talented than them, but weren't good teammates. So I always found that was an underrated aspect, and obviously something that I took pride in throughout my career. But then also not being complacent, right? Like I said earlier, challenging yourself to play at a higher level. When I played with the Revs for 4 years, I had some success, collectively and individually. But I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could play at a higher level. That's why I went over to Europe. And, I think that when you're constantly doing that and you're constantly putting that pressure on yourself of, hey, it's not good enough yet. It's not good enough, get better, continue to improve. I think that's, if you never lose that, and that's similar to what I was talking about with the trade to Atlanta, like that was a new fire for me. Where maybe I was a little complacent in Columbus, and now I had a new fire. I think it's always important to find those new fires, and leading back to my other point is you have to find those fires yourself sometimes. Right? They're not always going to be given to you. Sometimes you have to self-motivate and make sure that you're staying motivated throughout your career. I think that helps me for sure. Stay tuned in, stay thankful for my career, and enjoy it.
All right, awesome. So I just to kind of wrap it all up, so just seeing, I remember there was a lot of people when Atlanta were in the final, when you guys won the MLS Cup from Rhode Island, that were like so excited just to see, especially because you and then Julian Gressel as well at the time. And so I have to just ask, after, especially we talked about a little bit about Columbus, after everything that had happened, what was it like winning that for yourself and the team as well?
Yeah, it was a massive sigh of relief slash emotions of joy. Because I had lost 3 MLS Cups with New England. I had lost 1 with Columbus. And I was fortunate to get 4 chances at it, and a lot of guys don't even get 1. So I never thought I'd get a 5th. You never know on the day what's going to happen. And so happy that I was able to finally get one, because it was a trophy that had eluded me my whole career. And I had won other trophies and had other accomplishments and things like that. But, the MLS Cup is the biggest trophy in the US, I think. And, you work so hard for so long to try and get that trophy. And so many factors go into it. And, to lose out on so many of them was really tough. So happy that it worked out and that we won, especially at a home game in front of 70,000. It was probably the best atmosphere I ever played in front of. It was a perfect night for sure. And glad I had some people there from Rhode Island to celebrate with.
That's awesome. So kind of to wrap everything up, what advice would you have to your younger self as a soccer player, and then as well advice for players today that are looking to play college next level, or just reach their highest level?
Yeah, I'd say that for the younger kids, I would say that you don't have to be the best player on your team when you're 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. I played baseball up until 13. My son plays 2 sports right now, so I know that right now there's that big emphasis on focusing on one sport, from a very young age and thinking that's all you can do. I disagree. I think that a lot of the professionals my age or a little bit younger played multiple sports growing up, and I think it's good. Like I said, I think that the mentality of baseball and thinking ahead of each play maybe helped me a little bit. So I would encourage kids to play multiple sports growing up. Then as they're getting older, I would say to make sure that, as much as you're staying dedicated and working on things, to make sure that you're enjoying it. Because I came across a lot of players when I was at a boarding school for high school that were really talented, worked pretty hard, but just got burnt out. Right? They weren't having fun with it. It no longer was a joy to go out there and practice every day. It was I have to go out and practice today. Like, oh, it's hot out, or oh, it's raining, or I don't want to do this today. Where for me, it was like always, oh man, I can't wait to get out there and play today. So I think that's important, right? It's easy to lose sight of that. It's a game, and you're only young once to try and enjoy those moments, enjoy the team that you're with. I mean, most of my friends still today are kids that I played soccer with when I was 8, 9, 10 years old at Bayside. Like, I was just in Rhode Island for a wedding for a Bayside team member. Those are kids that to this day I'm friends with. So I wouldn't change those friendships for anything. It's different as you get older. Right? It's tougher to have those friendships that you have when you're younger. So I'd say, as equally as you work hard and stay dedicated and have that mindset to also enjoy it, and enjoy the road trips, and enjoy the little tournaments and the indoor soccer and the grind, knowing that other kids out there are putting in that grind too. It's definitely worth it for the few that make it, because I've had a blessed career, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I got to travel the world and play in the Olympics and do these crazy things that I would have never dreamed were possible, all playing a game. I hope there's others, Rhode Islanders like myself and like yourself, that are going to be professionals one day. And I'm really excited that I'm helping bring in a USL team to Rhode Island, and then hoping that there's going to be some former pros in the state that are going to play for that team.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, we're very, very excited about that as well. So it'll definitely be interesting to see that. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I really appreciate you hopping on for a little bit and, checking out the podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Honestly, thanks, Calvin. Awesome questions. Best of luck in the upcoming preseason. Yeah, hope it goes really well for you.
Definitely. Thank you. And as well for you, enjoy retirement, enjoy, family and all that good stuff. So have a great day. Thanks.
You too. Hopefully I'll see you at a USL game at some point, or even playing for us if things work out.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. It's a small world.
It sure is. Good to speak with you.
Nice speaking with you.
Bye-bye.